All right, folks, we're just going to get the recording kicked off and then I will start. All right, here we go, folks. Well, thanks again. Love everyone chiming in the chat. Feel free to post any questions you have there. We'll be handling questions at the end of the session, and we usually have a good amount of time for it. And in addition, we will be sending out a recording of this teardown as well as our slides and any offers that we have when we send the email out tomorrow. My name is Sunit Bhatt, and I am the GM at Crazy Egg. And Crazy Egg right now is supporting over 300,000 websites that use Crazy Egg to pay attention to who's visiting their website so they can make the most of every website visit. I'd also like to welcome our star guest, Tatum Shacklett. Tatum, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sunit. My name is Tatum Shacklett. I'm here representing Ardeaux Media. Ardeaux Media is an innovative digital marketing agency, and we focus on helping our clients in any way they can to scale their business and be better all around.
I love it. I love that calm example as well, which is wonderful. Okay. So today's agenda, we're going to conduct a website teardown. Then we'll do a discussion and analysis of some of the before and after redesigns of DriveALogue's homepage. In addition, Ardeaux Media has taken the first step with Drive-A-Logue. And one of the things we're going to do is talk about their next set of priorities and how we use some of the tools at our disposal to identify some things that they may run tests on going forward. So you'll get to see sort of a live discussion of some of that take place. And then obviously we'll leave time for question and answer. First thing we want to talk about is what is CRO, what is conversion rate optimization, definition of the tools in the trade. Very technically, the way people tend to define conversion rate optimization is they start with a discussion on analytics, which is some aggregation of reports. These can be heavily numerical, they can be very visual, they can be a combination of the two. This idea of a 30,000-foot view on aggregate reporting is sort of the first step. There's an element of user testing, and user testing is sort of both implicit and explicit. So implicit being watching journeys and user recordings of individuals as they navigate your site, as well as surveys, simply just asking customers questions and visitors questions. And then the key thing for us on the CRO side is the ability to close the loop. We are overwhelmed with data these days, and there are plenty of places to go to get good data. The important thing for us has always been the ability to take the insight, the inspiration that you find and put it into action, which you can do either via sort of editors or engineering changes, or simply tools that let you do A/B testing and make permanent changes to your website without the need of an engineer. It sounds pretty straightforward. If your responsibility is to build a better website, then you should be focused on building a better website. But what we know, based on a survey we conducted a few months ago, is that only 31% of marketers are paying attention to why people aren't achieving the goals they've set out on their websites. So if you think about it, if you just consistently are monitoring behavior on your website in pursuit of your goals, consistently could be as simple as 15 minutes each week. You are in the top third of marketers, and ideally your website will be in the top third of website performers, simply because you're paying attention and doing something that most other people don't have the time to do or haven't prioritized. And one way to think about change the way people are thinking about CROs, we don't really want to think about it too much in terms of tests and numbers and dashboards. That can be complicated. When you hear all those things, you feel like it's also going to take a lot of time. What you're really trying to do is understand people, what they're trying to do, and change their behavior and improve their experiences. So it's a lot simpler, and it should be a lot more accessible. When we think about it that way, our goal is to try and take the edge off. And there's also a big difference between calling something a test and just an experiment. And that language has also helped me sort of wrap my head around getting more comfortable with this idea of CRO. So my personal definition of CRO, it's really paying attention, it's asking questions, it's finding inspiration, and it's testing ideas and doing that consistently. So the emphasis is, less on running these amazing tests, and it's just about experimentation, rinsing and repeating and doing it on an ongoing basis. When we think about CRO, one of the things that comes to mind for me, just talked a little bit about the overwhelming amount of information we all have at our fingertips now. And one of the things that, a mentor of mine has shared, which I just can't shake. It resonates so well with me. The founder of the Right Question Institute says there's this growing recognition that the skill most needed today to make sense of extraordinary, unparalleled amount of information at our fingertips is also one of the oldest skills in the world. And that's the ability to formulate and ask the right question. So we all have data. How do we translate that into asking the right questions? And the right questions don't have to be incredibly complex. Sometimes the right questions just have to be consistent, structured, and anchored towards driving you to your outcome. And we'll give you a roadmap of some of the really simple questions I start with and Tatum starts with every time we just look at a website or an app or a product, anything online, and we're trying to understand what we can do to help the creators make it better. And these are the questions, right? What is our goal? What are people seeing? What are people clicking? How does that change based on the audience when we segment, when we filter? How can we fill spaces between the data points we're seeing on reports and whatever the nature of the report is? And then what ideas, what are we inspired to do that will make this experience better? That's it. And one of the biggest questions that we're kind of excited to answer today is, a lot of people come to us and say, do I have enough traffic for a tool? Should I be really paying attention to Google Analytics or Crazy Egg? And I've said all along, if you have the fewer visitors you have, the more important a tool like this has, because the smaller your margin for error, which means if you have 25, 50, 100 visits, every one of those counts. Every one of those is soaked in deep learning that can affect your ability to bring in more visitors or grow or convert better. You may use the tools slightly differently, but you can still make a massive impact. And my advice is you should be paying attention regardless. And what I love about the case study we decided to focus on today is we're looking at somebody who has taken that organic step from like the friends and family amount of traffic to consistent, scalable, sustained traffic, and is now on pace to increase that even more. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tatum to introduce Drive-A-Logue. I'm going to switch my screen and pull up the websites and some reports. But Tatum, do you want to take some time to introduce us to Drive-A-Logue and tell us a little bit about their goals and how you all got involved with them?
Absolutely. Drive-A-Logue is a great company that I personally resonate with. The owner is a great guy. So just a bit of context about what they are, what they do, how big they are, so you guys can maybe relate to them as well. Drive-A-Logue is a research-based game. It's a card game. It's based around the idea of bringing families closer together through having meaningful conversations. So how this business came about was there's a local teacher in Arizona, the Phoenix area, and he's a teacher and a public speaker, and he is really close with a lot of parents in the community, and he hears out a lot of their questions and a lot of their challenges. And one thing he noticed was that a lot of parents were struggling with having meaningful conversations with their kids. They're saying, it's awkward to bring up certain topics. My kids don't seem very responsive when I try and talk to them about things, or I don't know how to talk to them or know what to talk about. Help. How do I have these conversations with my kids? I know how important it is, but I just don't know how to get it started in a safe place where they feel comfortable to open up. And so that's where Adam, the owner of Drive-A-Logue, took his own initiative to make this game to bring families closer together. So basically what it is, it's a deck of cards, and it's got a bunch of different conversation starters on it. And the idea is that you keep the cards in your car, and so you can play it with your kids to and from school or on road trips, anytime you're in the car. And basically the idea behind it is that kids feel more comfortable opening up and sharing their feelings with their parents when they're in the car or when they're not forced to make direct eye contact. So this business has been taking off in Arizona locally. He sells out all of his cards when he takes them to the back of his talks. Everyone who uses them with their families says that they've had amazing results and that it's their favorite game with their kids now, and it's brought them so much closer together. And so Adam knew that his business was at a place where it had a ton of potential and it could really help a lot of families across America and worldwide. So we were introduced to Adam through a mutual connection, another small business that we'd worked with before. And he told Adam, look, Adam, like, doesn't matter how big your business is, it's got a lot of potential. It's never too soon to start marketing. So we got in contact with Adam, and he knew he wanted to redo his website, and he also knew he wanted to run some ads to increase awareness of his product. And so what we started here, this was Adam's website that you see here before we did a redesign. So as you can see, it's got a bit about his business, it's got his logo, a video, and it's got a lot of information about the suggested use. You can see their mission there and their vision, all great things, a lot of really great information. However, we weren't quite sure what was going on the website. He had no analytics tools hooked up to it, no Google Analytics, no Crazy Egg. So we were just kind of in the dark with how to redesign his website. So we got started with Adam and we said, look, doesn't matter how much traffic you think you have or how big you think you are, it's never too soon to start investing in yourself and investing in your company and the metrics that will help you look back in the long term and say, wow, look how far we've come. So the first thing we did with Adam was plug in Crazy Egg. And Crazy Egg was really the first place that we started. We said, look, we're not going to touch your website yet. We're just going to plug in Crazy Egg and see what people are doing on your website. And so that's what we did. And as you can see, this is what we saw.
So Tatum, talk a little bit about what jumped out at you when you looked at sort of the heat map and the scroll map together, sort of people paying attention as well as clicks. What were some of the things that jumped out at you when you saw this?
Yeah, well, some of the first things that stuck out was the amount of scattered clicks. As you can see, the clicks are kind of all over the place. Some of them are on non-clickable links. They're just kind of clicking all over. There's no real direction as to where to go, which can lead to a lot of confusion for a visitor. You know, you come to a website and it's frustrating when you don't know where to go or you don't know what the information is supposed to be telling you. So the scattered clicks definitely stood out to us right off the bat. And then the more we looked, we saw on the scroll map side, there was a really big drop off after the first page fold. So pretty consistently, people scrolled a little bit and then just less and less and less. So it told us that his page was maybe not as engaging as it could have. Although it had a lot of information on it, people weren't really engaging with it again as they scrolled down. So those were two things that really stuck out to us right off the bat.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think one of those popular things I do is when I use, we recently launched this version of this converged report where you have on the left-hand side, people's attention and you have the CTAs. So what I like here is you have a good alignment of the CTA with where 97% of the people are paying attention. The challenge for me is this area is dense. So what you want when you have a CTA is space. So you have a lot of people paying attention here, but the CTA is now competing with the video a bit, and just with this powerful, colorful background, it's a visual anchor that people are going to stop on. But the CTA isn't pronounced and doesn't have its space to sort of breathe. And on the inverse, when you go to the bottom, you have a great big bold CTA here. Unfortunately, less than a third of the people are even going to see this one. You still have engagement here. You still have a bunch of stray clicks here. But imagine if you could build that up and beef that up. So I agree with what you all saw, and it looks like you had a nice opportunity of a website to work with. So this is nice to see. This is sort of what you all walked into. I'm going to now pull up a little bit about the redesign, and Tatum, maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the priorities for sort of this version 1 of the next iteration of Drive-A-Logue. And I think that's important because y'all were able to do this quickly and focus on sort of the 1 or 2 big priorities to redesign, acknowledging that a website is a living and breathing thing. So it's never perfect. What you're trying to do is move in pursuit of their goals. So before I turn, what was the big goal it probably seems obvious, but what was the big goal that Drive-A-Logue wanted you all to help them achieve?
Well, one of the big goals was definitely to increase conversions and to also help people fully understand what Drive-A-Logue was and present the information about Drive-A-Logue in a easy to understand way and in an intuitive way. So those
Awesome.
are things we really focused on.
Okay, sounds great. Let's check out their website. Here we go.
Voila.
So go for it, Tatum. So talk to us a little bit about what went into the redesign, some of the choices to animate, move the video around. Tell us a little bit about how you got to this.
Definitely. Well, we definitely wanted to create a website that flowed easy and was easy on your eyes and allowed you to scroll through, and as you scroll, better and better understand what DriveALogue was about, to help the visitor really make a well-informed decision when it came to the opportunity to add to the cart, click to buy, overall just convert. And so what you see here is, of course, the beginning of the short introduction, and then a bit more about DriveALogue. And then we've got suggested use, all very readable, all very easy, and then some more colors of suggested use, and then right here, bang, the call to action. And we wanted to really make sure that it was visual, colorful, and really just communicated the whole fun and family-like vibe of DriveALogue altogether.
Great. Nice work. You also cleaned up the testimonials and a lot of white space. And I think one of the things that jumped out before I even looked at any of the analytics, whether it was Google Analytics or Crazy Egg, the thing that jumped out to me was use of white space, and everything has its place. So the ability for you to really call attention to the things that you want people to read, do, consume, and also follow them with sort of this free shipping. So let's use that and jump into the heat map for Crazy Egg. So after you launched, you started seeing the traffic patterns. So what delights you or makes you happy when you see sort of this traffic pattern on the heat map of the newly designed website?
Definitely a lot of things make me very happy about this new heat map.
That's good. That's good.
It's very pleasing to find this. And a few things that really stuck out to me right off the bat was the organization of clicks. Every single thing on here that has been clicked is clickable, even the headers there. It doesn't seem like it's clickable, but if someone was to click on those rotating cards right off the bat, or the what is DriveALogue, that'll lead them straight through the product page, and they can get what they're looking for. Also, another thing that really made us happy was the continuation of scrolling. As you saw on the last website, we saw that people just dropped off right after the first fold pretty consistently. But as you can see here, they slow down, almost get down to 20%, and then they speed back up right at the product. And so that was really exciting to see that people were not only scrolling through, taking in the information, but then they also stopped altogether to take the time to absorb the product, the call to action right here.
Great. So actually, Tatum, I want to call that one out actually, because I know you and I spoke about that. So this is the old website, and what you can see is you see the pattern of people scrolling, they're stopping. You know, when we count a percent or an impression, that means somebody has actually stopped scrolling. So if you just flew through the website like that, you wouldn't count as somebody who had stopped. And what you see is just diminishing returns. Like it's just straight down, which means engagement is dropping off, which means the scrolling pattern is almost mechanical. Like people are just scrolling through to get to the bottom and see what's there. But they haven't seen anything they liked. What Tatum is talking about, what jumps out on the site is you have high engagement here. You see people scrolling and stopping. You still have about 2/3 of people engaged here, well below the fold. You see people start losing attention a bit here. So the interesting thing here is how valuable is this content? Can we compress it? Like, what are the things we can do there? But all of a sudden, this has jumped back up, and you see a lot of clicks on the CTA and on switching the age groups. And one of the things that you all did really well here is you created a powerful visual anchor in addition to putting the CTA. So I would hypothesize that the reason people have stopped here is not just because there's a CTA, but because you put your biggest image here that is naturally going to slow people down, especially because it's an image they haven't seen. So Tatum, I think that's a good one to call out. I really appreciate that y'all did that. And I think nice work on anchoring the CTA to something large and visual. So you sort of get a compounding effect that can elevate your clicks. I mean, you increased, from 26% to 24%, back up to 38% of your audience. So, adding almost, 50 to 75% of visitors back to stop on this is only going to improve your conversion rates. What else jumps out, Tatum? Is there anything else you want to talk about on the heat map?
Those are the things that really stuck out to us. It was really important for us to organize the information in a way that makes sense. Of course, it's a game that it's got a few different angles you could pitch it as. And so we wanted to make sure that we got the right information in the right place to really educate people in a short amount of time and help them make the decision to convert. So we are really pleased with this result from Crazy Egg. And also, Adam, the owner of DriveALogue, was very pleased to see it as well. It's one of the great things we love about the heat map is it's a very visual way to see what's happening. You can go through numbers all day, but it really is refreshing to take this to a client and be able to say, wow, look at this. This is what people are actually doing on the website. And that's just gold. And as you can see, like, we're still in the optimization never stops. We're continually learning. We're continually trying to make it better. And Crazy Egg has really helped us with that. So we're very pleased with the results so far. And we're so excited to keep making it better and better and better. It's not just one redesign. It's really continual.
Great. I think that's right. And I think there's some feedback coming in on, are people clicking on some of the intermittent CTAs, and are you getting the right clicks that you want? And I think that the general feedback is absolutely right. The benefit to launching an iteration of a website is you launch some stuff. Some of the things work, some of the things don't. And as a result of that, you try and figure out what to do next. And I feel like every time you look at analytics, or you look at a heat map, or you look at however you look at the reporting from a CRO and inspiration perspective, your goal is really to figure out, okay, what's the next big thing that you can take on? What's the next bit of inspiration you have that can improve conversions? And one of the things that jumped out when we looked at the mobile site, and Tatum and I just connected on this actually earlier today, is, on mobile they have, I think, 2.5 to 3 times the visits that they do on desktop. And one of the things that I was talking to Tatum about was, you have this incredible density of clicks here on the website and in the on the website and in the navigation, and not a ton of engagement elsewhere. And one of the things we do is, when we're looking for those clicks that aren't necessarily showing up in the heat map, perhaps because the numbers are dynamic or for a variety of reasons, we go to something called the list view page, and we just look at the clicks over the past few days. And what you'll see here is these 2, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12 are the age groups. I can zoom in a little bit. These are the age groups in the CTAs at the very bottom of the mobile web. And only about 30 to 35% of visitors are even seeing this, yet it still rakes up 21% of the clicks over the past few days. And that's really fascinating to me, because there is an opportunity to move up the buy now and some of the other content. Sometimes when a link doesn't show up in a heat map, it's a result of dynamic tracking or a variety of things. So we go to this list view page to make sure we're not missing anything. And what you'll see is the buy Drive-A-Logue and buy Drive-A-Logue now are only getting a handful of clicks, every few days. There's a lot of density. People are really interested in picking the ages and shopping. And people are also interested in some of the images. And people are also defaulting to the menu and moving to the menu before they get the ability to even purchase. So we talked to Tatum about the opportunity to rethink mobile and run an A/B test. Tatum, do you want to talk about some of the ideas you had when I shared that information with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the participants, Ivan, thank you for giving us your input. I think one of the great things about this tool and about using it continually is the opportunity to test and see what works and see what doesn't. There's so much to learn from redesigning your website, and I think it's something that should be continual and not just one redesign overdone. It's really important to see what works, what doesn't work. And so, like you said, a lot of people aren't clicking on the top bar area, and maybe there's not enough call to action. And maybe that's also what we're seeing here too on the mobile view. It's a great opportunity to test something out. I know Crazy Egg has A/B testing available now, which is awesome. So this is something going forward I would be really curious about doing some A/B tests with, and having this mobile view and also maybe the desktop view that you guys said when Ivan sent in the question. And just do some variations and see if a variation sees better results, better clicks. And that's the beauty of it, is just continually trying new things, being curious about the results, not just saying, this looks best, it's staying this way forever. It's always about, it may look great, it may function well, but is it really best? I don't know. We'll keep playing with it, we'll keep trying, we'll keep learning. And that's the beauty of marketing, and that's the beauty of using tools like this, is it's a fun, creative, ongoing process that will only make you better.
Yeah, I think that nails it again. I love when anybody sees sort of a visual representation of data, it becomes a lot. You spend less time processing the information, and you quickly find inspiration and can make suggestions. Most of you folks aren't familiar with Drive-A-Logue necessarily, but I bet after looking at some of the reporting that we've looked at, everybody here has one or two suggestions on things they think that would dramatically improve conversions, and that's what we're talking about. This stuff isn't hard; it's actually fun. And I think it's actually inspiring as well. So I'm going to close this out, head back into the presentations, and we'll talk about some. We'll have Tatum talk about some interesting Google Analytics work as well. Tatum, do you want to talk a little bit about what this slide represents, the different lines?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a great place to start. So as you can see, we started April 9th, and this is the 3-month section between April 9th and July 9th. So we started on April 9th saying, okay, we're going to plug in all the analytics tools and just see what's happening before we even touch the website. Let's just get to the data. Let's see what's going on. And what we saw, as you can see in the very beginning, the orange line, there wasn't very much traffic going to the website, and that's okay. So what we did was we said, all right, we're going to start Google ads, or I think it was Facebook ads actually that we've been doing. Start Facebook ads, small budget of $150 per month just to run some traffic there and see what's happening, what people are doing. And so that's what we did. And a key thing to note is that this whole entire time, we have not changed the Facebook ad budget. So it's been $150 per month the whole entire time. And as you can see, there's some pretty different results between the orange line and the blue line with the same amount of very small ad budget. And so what we really saw, you can see kind of where it spikes in the orange line. That's where we started Facebook ads. We saw low traffic, not very many users, wasn't performing very well. And so we took that data and this is also when we were running Crazy Egg, and we went through it all. We came up with a few ideas and we implemented them. So what you're seeing from May 14th to July 9th, that is after the redesign. So after we went through, and here are the next numbers you'll see on the next slide of the improvement. So this section is between, it's comparing April 9th to May 13th and May 13th to July 9th after the redesign. And as you can see, all very, very, very happy numbers with the same amount of ad spend, which is pretty awesome. And we're very excited about these numbers. As you can see, the users went up, new users went up, sessions up, bounce rate way down, page session way up, average duration way up. So we're very happy with these numbers and with the same amount of ad budget as well.
And I think that's an important point, Tatum. You know, for the control perspective, you want to make sure that you understand what's moving the needle. And $150 for, is a modest budget, but it's more than spending nothing. But nevertheless, your commitment to holding that steady and proving to your client that you can move the needle materially, like 5-6x improvement with the same exact budget, I think is the kind of thing that also just proves that there's a lot of room. It doesn't take a lot of money to improve your numbers necessarily. This is why we focus so much on that idea of paying attention. And again, no matter the size, we deal with a number of customers who have fewer than 500 or even 1,000 visits, and the tension is always: is this valuable? Do I have time for this? And I think these results prove that if you make time for it, it'll be more than worth it. The highest ROI investment by most studies is doing this kind of work. Tate, I'm going to move to the next.
Awesome. Yeah. So just continuing the page views, which is pretty amazing to note. The page views went up 813% with the exact same ad budget. So I think something to note here is that not only does the overall design look better, but I think with the same ad budget, something that's important to note is that we also installed Facebook Pixel into the website. So Facebook knows how people are interacting with your page, and when they see that it's interacting more positively, they're going to be sending more traffic. And another thing that we saw as time went on, which was pretty amazing, was that the cost per click on Facebook also went down dramatically. I think when we started, it was like $1.50 per click on Facebook, which is pretty atrocious, pretty bad. And as time has gone on, we're now almost 4 months in, clicks are now down to 30 cents per click, which is pretty stellar considering the short time frame. Another thing to note here is that, something that Crazy Egg helped us out with a lot, was the average time on page. We saw this number and we're like, hang on, what's going on here? Less time on the page than before? And so we went into Crazy Egg, and we actually saw that someone on the previous website had left the page open for like 16 minutes and hadn't done anything. And it completely skewed our results. And so we wouldn't have really known why the page views went down or the time on page went down if it weren't for Crazy Egg, because we were able to go in and see, oh, okay, our results are skewed. It's not actually a negative number. It's actually just a skew, which happens.
Yeah, and you'll see a bunch of those in this list. You see 33 minutes, you see 16 minutes, you see a bunch of those things, and that's why it's just the ability to complement the Google Analytics data is something that we think is important.
Yeah.
Tatum, we have this recording. Should I play this one?
Yeah, I think this one's important to watch just because a lot of businesses we talk to, they're like, we've got a website, it's up, it's functioning. We know it could improve, but we think we're too small to like really start doing marketing yet. We want to make some more sales first, maybe grow a bit, and then redesign our website. And this is a recording that kind of proves that maybe we don't always know what's going on our website. This recording shows a viewer or a visitor coming to the website, and the website actually broke for them. So this was a big, as you can see, it's just totally gone to like a back end view of some sort. And so although your website may work on your browsers, sometimes they will break on other people's browsers. And this is something that Crazy Egg has really helped us get into a material view and be able to take to a client and say, okay, look, here's what's happening. We can definitely improve on this.
Great. And we have a couple questions. We'll get to those questions. Let me wrap up so we can make some more time for the questions. But that point, Tatum, I think we talk about filling in the gaps between data points. Sometimes recordings and surveys are a good way to do that when you just need more information, richer information. So, simple questions beget clear answers. And so as we wrap up, the goal, if you think about it, is how do you balance business priorities with good testing and a fixed budget? So, one of the things that Tatum talked about was holding firm to that fixed budget to make sure that she understood the impact of her work and her team's work against that goal. You want to figure out what people are seeing and clicking. What we say is pay attention to visual anchors association to CTAs, like how big visual elements are either helping your conversion rate or, as we saw in the original design, potentially distracting. You may get people paying attention, but they may actually be pulling the attention away from the CTA. When you think about audience segments, if you don't have a lot of traffic, keep it simple. There's a lot of complex filtering you can do. You can do new versus existing. You can do different referrals. You can do time of day, day of week, UTM codes. You can do a bunch of different things. But when you have low traffic, start with the basics. And devices is important, as you saw with the Drive-A-Logue. Very different engagement when you look at desktop versus mobile. And as you heard Tatum talk about, the mobile heat map inspired her she has some tests she's probably going to run pretty quickly, I think, when we get out of the webinar. Filling spaces between user journeys can explain surprises and outliers. So, you don't need to watch a lot of recordings sometimes to understand, give your data some context. And I think the user journeys in this case helped explain some of the outliers on things like time on site and engagement. And then inspiration, you start at the very beginning with simple, clear, initial goals, and you'll be able to find that inspiration. If your goal is to raise and lift conversions, well, that's the thing you should be focused on. How are you going to improve clicks? Just like Ivan shared in the comments, and I'm sure a bunch of you have inspiration and ideas on as well. Keep it simple. You don't need to make many big changes. As long as you commit to making one change, each week. At Crazy Egg, we talk about sort of the 15-minute, the quarter hour power hour. So takeaways, low traffic doesn't mitigate the need for paying attention. It actually elevates it, as you can see in this case study. A modest amount of traffic, but a dramatic increase in conversion and engagement that sets the stage. Now you know where to put more money and where to invest more and spend more time. Clear changes can have profound effects on your metrics. If you have low traffic, think multiples, not increments. You don't want to be tweaking at the edge. You want to be focused on that big primary goal and make that change. You'll see improvement. And paying attention to what is and isn't working can be done in less than 15 minutes a week. And I can't share that enough. If you were to block out 15 minutes each week to jump into Google Analytics, pick a page, jump into GA, jump into a tool like Crazy Egg, look at some heat maps very visually, quickly, you'll get some inspiration, validate some of that thinking, with recordings, if you'd like. Inside of 15 minutes a week, I think you could have clear priorities for the week and make high impact and high ROI changes that will really transform your business. It just works. Tatum, we have a question here about what marketing campaign you ran to get people to go to the test as part of the experiment. You mentioned Facebook ads. Can you dive a little bit deeper into some of the ads you were running?
Definitely. Thank you for the question, Lewis. We started with Facebook ads because the price was really low, and it was a great way to build off of the community that DriveALogue already had on social media. So as you said to begin with, this was a business that had mainly friends and family connected with them. And what we did is we started with people who were connected to DriveALogue's Facebook. So we built a lookalike audience, as well as retargeting ads, that kind of thing. And we started in just Arizona, just to keep it local. And from there, we ran that for, I think, a few days. And then we expanded nationwide. And what we saw was clicks went down a lot when we expanded nationwide. And we also saw more clicks through and more unique clicks as well. So there's no rush to go big right away. It's totally fine to start small with a small audience, which is very specific, and then grow out from there, because it really just does all help in the big picture. So thank you for your question, Liz. And if you have any more questions about what kind of Facebook ad that we ran, feel free to email me and we can schedule a call and I'll let you know.
So it looks like we have another, actually, so we had a point from Ivan earlier, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to go back and address that. On the actual website, he saw 2 CTA buttons, add to cart and buy now. What were the statistics of clicks on those buttons? I think we'd probably find that in the list report, but really great points to bring up in terms of analysis. Otherwise, we have a question from Jacob. So hi guys, is there anything like Crazy Egg Analytics, some other quantitative data other than snapshots and recordings?
Perfect. So a couple things there, and I apologize, guys. I was on mute and talking. So a couple of things on the list view. We will follow back up. I closed out the reports, and so I will follow up with Ivan on the specific list view buttons. When it comes to following up on Tatum's comment, she's actually going to be scheduling offering a consult to everyone who attends the webinar and or who signed up for the webinar. So if you are interested in learning more about her campaigns, that's a great way to do that, and we'll be following up with some content about that. In terms of, is there anything like Crazy Egg Analytics? I mean, some other quantitative data other than snapshots and recordings. So we have 5 different reports. I'll cover this very quickly, and then I'll follow up directly with you, Jacob, on your question and give you some more context on Crazy Egg. I don't want this to turn into a sales pitch, but we have 5 different reports. We help you understand where people are clicking, where people are scrolling, where people are spending time. And then we also help you segment that according to 22 different filters, and then about 100 different segments. You can include custom variables on your customers. You can use UTMs, so you can segment clicks by campaigns. There's a host of ways you can do it. We have an integration with SurveyMonkey as well that helps you ask and pose survey questions on your website to customers. So there's a number of things that you can do with Crazy Egg, and I'll follow up with you directly again, just out of respect for everybody on the call. Those are some great tools, and we do have an integration with Google Analytics that's getting a little bit richer and helping you pull in some data from GA to understand and power some of the decisions you make using Crazy Egg as well. Using the two in complement, I think, is excellent. Sometimes we have Alana here who says, sometimes I find in recordings an individual does something that is really different than what we'd have expected, getting lost. Is it worth making adjustments though for just one person, assuming others may also be having similar issues but just aren't being recorded? Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple ways of doing that. So one, obviously run the A/B test. That's the first thing. The second thing is you can set up recordings to record specifically for a page, and you can isolate and accelerate recordings on specific pages with sampling. So that's something you can try and get creative with to record more users there. The next thing you could do is pop up a survey. So ask them a question. gives you the ability to engage with them directly. Those are all things that I would do. And if you're struggling getting feedback from your users directly, you could always run a user test with usertesting.com. You could take it and just objectively run it by people to see how they engage with it. And you may not even need to go to people off site. If you have 10 or 15, if you're looking for some qualitative research, if people are, for example, not exhibiting a click behavior or a scroll behavior that you expect, take 10 or 15 friends or family or people at the company that don't spend a lot of time on the website and just watch them navigate the site. There's a lot of lo-fi, easy, quick ways to verify and validate some of those hypotheses. So the A/B test may be the last thing that you do. If you ask a survey question, do a little bit of more sampling on the page, and run your own sort of friends and family survey with people who aren't incredibly familiar with the website, that could tell you whether or not it's worth running a test even before you run it. But those are all things that you can consider doing, and that's what I would do. So let's see. Hopefully that was helpful. You'll have my email as well if you want to reach out after, and I'm always happy to dive deeper. Great job getting from Mark. Great job getting that bounce rate down, but 80% means there's still room for improvement. What are the next steps to get that down? Tatum, do you have ideas? And I know we covered some of those just by talking about elevating CTAs and things like that. What are your thoughts on that, Tatum?
Yeah, Mark, thank you for the question. It's a great observation. We've actually done a few things since this recording was done, or since this last heat map was taken, to improve all sorts of things like that. So one thing you notice when you go to the website is that there's no chatbot, and there was also no unique promotion and that sort of thing. And so those are two things that we've added already to try and improve our numbers a bit more. We've added an email capture as well, because one thing we also want to improve on is returning customers or returning visitors. That's been pretty low, and so we think that if we can get an email list going and expand our services to include email marketing, we can increase people coming back to the website as well. But we really think that adding more features like a chatbot will keep people really engaged, and also creating some more offers like free shipping is something we have now, and also the chatbot is something that we've added recently as well. And another thing we're going to add into the future is a resources page for people to come back to the site and see more blogs, videos, things like that, to help people really learn how to use the deck of cards for their family and also hear other people's stories. And so there's a few things that we have bouncing around, but Mark, if you have any other ideas as well, we're always open to collaborate, and we'd love to hear your ideas. I think the big takeaway is that there's always room for improvement, and it's fun to find room for improvement. And it's extra super fun when you get to see the results through something like Crazy Egg, Google Analytics, that kind of thing. So I hope that answers your question, but definitely email me and we can have a conversation and brainstorming sesh if you'd like after this.
Great. And I would say, the homepage for DriveALogue is kind of like a landing page. So a bounce rate that's high, that's, driven, that is sort of at 80% isn't necessarily out of context, but what you do, because people are coming there, they clicked on an ad, they're trying to purchase something, there's that level of intent, and they either convert or bounce. So, what you are looking for are the key things that Tatum talked about: converting people from new visitors to one-time visitors to returning. So retargeting is also another great one. Making sure that you have your Facebook pixel placed accordingly. So when people have visited your site, you retarget and bring them back, because not everybody converts on the first exercise. So email capture and retargeting are always great things. One more out of context, Jacob, I saw this. I'm going to pass this along to our support team and see if they can't look into why you have such a disparity in tests going live. Our head of success is actually on the call, so I'll have her take a look at this. How does Crazy Egg decide which pages get recorded in a snapshot? So there are some tools that you can use to identify which pages you want to block, which pages you want to use to start and capture and include in recordings. And then you can also choose how we sample. So you can choose, some custom sampling. You can choose us to sample a lot right away. So for example, if you've launched something new and you want to just capture a lot of recordings immediately. Otherwise, we just default to sort of uniform sampling over the course of a month. So a few different controls you have in the settings tab. We will make sure to follow up, Francis, with you with a link to a help article that shows exactly how some of that sampling and settings and selections on recordings works. So we have a host of messages here. We do have a few more minutes, so let's go for it. Let's see. We have does Crazy Egg work the same on a web page that is not a template? Example Shopify, and is it completely programmed from zero? Paulina, I want to make sure I'm answering the question correctly, so we'll follow up. We do have an integration with Shopify. Shopify limits some of the things we can do, as they do for any partner, inside their checkout experience. So there are limitations when you're working with a company like Shopify. Their bread and butter is that checkout experience, and they don't want anybody to inject anything into their experience, whether it's reporting or recording or features or offers that could muddy the sales transaction experience, because obviously it affects their bottom line. And so there are limitations on things we can do with Shopify, but we do have a native integration with Shopify, and we're one of the few. Let's see. With Alana, when we were looking at the homepage of this example new website, we saw high engagement, lower engagement in the 1, 2, 3 section. Then it picked back up. Would the recommendation be, when you see a drop off like that, to rework the content, remove content, or move it up down the page? Tatum, did you see that question? Do you have any reactions to that?
Yeah, definitely. This is a piece of content that the creator of DriveALogue, Adam, is very valuable. And so it's not something we want to remove from the website completely, but definitely we'll play around with some A/B tests to see if performance of the website is better without it. And maybe if it'll be better in a different place, like the resources page, or maybe further down, somewhere that's really intuitive for people to capture that information. Whereas people who are coming from ads may not be interested in it. They may just want to get straight to the product. And so I would say I wouldn't do away with the information completely, because it is important to fully understand the product, but I would play around with moving it to different locations. But great question, Alana. Thank you.
Yeah, great stuff, Alana. And we will, I think you've got the right idea, which is, what do you recommend? Rework the content, remove content, move it down the page. One of the things to do is just watch some of the recordings on the page and see, are people stopping there? Are people stopping there? Are they scrolling right past it quickly? And that'll give you some ideas for what you can do. You can change the visual treatment. Again, is sort of like, think of putting speed bumps on your website as people scroll, so that they're something new and something different forces them to stop. So there are different ways of treating it. And then again, I loved what Tatum said, which is, maybe there's just a different place for it. As people are choosing to explore, maybe those are the people who want to see that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So we have Beta said, I would like to learn more about sources of traffic. Where could I find this? In our confetti report, it was one we didn't focus on too much, because we really wanted to emphasize the difference between mobile and desktop. And we also know that the key traffic drivers are really sort of direct, friends and family, and Facebook. But in our confetti report, it's the third report, the third heat map that you see. There's a bunch of filters there that help you identify specifically per page where you're getting referral traffic from. That's a great complement to the referral traffic information in Google. So for example, you can filter by search term, you can filter by referring website, filter by all of those things just by clicking a couple checkboxes. And you can really identify the difference in patterns for people who type in your name directly, who already know about you, versus people who may come from a referring site and may have a different browsing behavior and search differently. Those people you may want to actually send to a different place, resources, for example, because they're still exploring. Okay, folks, I believe we do have, we've got a couple of more technical questions here. And let me see if I can answer it. Be sure to send you all information on creating snapshots. So we've got a couple things that will come out in the follow-up. We've had a few people ask questions about sampling and recording settings. So we'll just include that in the email to everyone, so everyone here can see it. Yep. If you choose list view, you can choose items that are not visible on the page, that are not hidden. So to Ivan's question, there is a list view report, which is the last report that lets you actually just see. And that's the one we looked at when we were on the mobile page. I had closed out the other pages, but that's the one we looked at on the mobile page that showed you the individual links and clicks that people were clicking, including those in the drop-down navigation. So Mark, we're hiring. You're welcome to join us. You're an excellent troubleshooter for Crazy Egg. And then is Crazy Egg able to show clicks on accordion style design where the content is not visible until a user clicks? Okay. So that's actually related to that question. Okay. I believe we've caught all the questions. Cecilia, I was scrolling through quickly. Is there anything I missed? We got good engagement, folks. Thanks for all the questions. Tatum brings out the best in people.
I think you actually hit them all. We'll just follow up with Jacob on his particular questions, just because it'll need a little more detailed responses. But otherwise, I think you got them all.
Great. There's Jacob, and then there's perfect. Jacob's the individual with the A/B testing questions as well, right?
Yes, exactly. So Jacob, really, really great questions all around. So we'll be definitely sure to follow up with you personally to make sure that we answer them all.
Great. All right, folks. Well, one, I want to thank Cecilia and head of product marketing here, and JL, head of customer success, for being on the call and helping set this up and building the deck and doing all the amazing work. Most importantly, I want to thank Tatum and the folks at DriveALogue for participating. We've enjoyed working with them as partners, really honest about what's working, what's not, how we can make things better, how they use the tool, and their willingness to open up and spend some time with us and all of us here today is something that won't be forgotten. They've also got a generous offer. We'll put that in the follow-up email for a consult. So if you have questions, not just about Crazy Egg or Google Analytics, but about some of the campaigns they've run, I encourage you to meet with Ardeaux and with Tatum. And then for us, we've excellent offer, free 30-day trial to our webinar attendees. And if you sign up, you all have my information, Sunit B at crazyegg.com if you need anything. And we have an excellent success team that's very responsive to questions. So with that, I just, thanks a lot. It was really nice to see the engagement, lots of questions. You guys stayed with us for almost an hour, and I really appreciate you making time for us. And hopefully this was helpful to you. Thanks a lot. And with that, Cecilia, I'll let you sign off.
Thanks again for joining us, everyone. We also have live office hours every week. So if you have any other questions, feel free to join us weekly. Thank you.